Well, hey there, guys. Thanks for joining us. This is kind of a follow-up to our what to look for when buying a guitar. This is what to look for when buying an amp. Hang out. Well, hey there, guys. Thanks for joining us here at Rock Hard Riffs, the guitar channel for the self-taught. Thanks again for joining us. We really appreciate your view and your subscribing. Please, if you would, if you haven't already, we truly appreciate that. Again, we're going to follow up our what to look for, or what I look for when buying a guitar. Now we're going to talk about what to look for when buying an amplifier. So, first off, let's talk about tube versus solid state. Okay? Now, I am not against one or the other. I'm not against solid state, though I will say I'm not a huge fan of digital. That I'll say straight out. I prefer more analog solid state if I have to go that route, which is what these orange amps are. But again, if you've been watching my channel, if you're familiar with the channel or not, I am paid by nobody. Nobody gives me any type of compensation for anything that I've shown on my channel, at least up to this point. So first, let's talk about solid state. Now, these are great amps. They don't, you don't burn through tubes like you would a tube amp like this poor Marshall. I've been through 3 or 4 different sets of tubes in this amp, but it's worth it. It is such a killer amp. But let's talk solid state. There are things that can go wrong with these, but it's not like tube amps. They don't need that kind of maintenance. Another thing as far as this particular amp goes, what I'd look for is a reverb. Now, the funny thing is you can always date an amp, or sometimes you can date an amp by what effects are on it. Like if you find an amp that has tremolo, there's a pretty good chance that that is from the 60s or 70s. If you have an amp that has a chorus, that's more than likely from the 80s or 90s. Okay, nowadays they tend to, you've got your modeling amps and all that, they've got everything under the sun. Or amps like this that come with reverb. This has a digital spring reverb, and it's good. It's a really good reverb. Sounds really good. So that's an important thing that I look for in an amp. I don't want another pedal, if I can help it, to crowd my board, unless it's such a super special amp and it just doesn't come with reverb. But I do look for reverb. That's the one effect I do look for when buying an amp. Next, ease of use. Now let's talk about ease of use. Is it laid out so it's easy to understand? And this one is the only thing that's kind of a little bit tricky is the gain and dirty channel volume. Those coincide with the volume of the dirty channel. And you want to make sure that they are on the same level as the clean. Okay? But that's the only thing you really have to worry about dialing in as far as that goes. Otherwise, this amp is extremely easy to use. And it has a very good FX loop to boot. And it has a foot switch, too. Okay, now let's talk about the Marshall. This is probably one of the, by hands down, this is the most killer guitar amp I have ever owned. And guys, when I was in the market to buy this amp, I went through amp after amp after amp after amp. Mrs. Beans, who is holding the camera, can attest to that. Yes, Mrs. Beans?
Yep.
I went through amp after amp. And the funny thing is, most of them that we kept saying to me, well, check this one out. It sounds just like a Marshall. Or check that one out. It sounds just like a Marshall. And I thought, why don't I just buy a Marshall? Like I used to have. I used to use JCM 900s. It was the first ones that came out with the 2 channels. Now that's another thing that I look for when buying an amp. Now you can see this one has 4 channels. 1, 2, 3, 4. Generally when I'm looking for an amp, I just want 2 channels. 2 channels are good enough, a dirty and a clean. I want a good clean channel and I want a killer dirty channel. I prefer, believe it or not guys, to not use distortion or overdrive pedals if I don't have to, i.e. this amp. I don't need to use any kind of overdrive pedal with this at all because I have all these different selections. Each channel has 3 different sub-channels, if you will, to it. So there's nothing I can't almost get with this amp. Now another thing that people are going to, some people do, and the big time pros do this a lot, And it's I don't take anything away from them, but what they recommend is to get an amp that has a really good clean, or a really good clean that just goes into breaking up. Then after that, you can use pedals and stuff. Now, I can't disagree with that, but what if you have an amp that has a killer clean and a killer overdrive in it? That's personally what I look for in an amp. That's why I have this Marshall. I don't use any overdrive or distortion pedals whatsoever. Okay, now let's talk practical application of solid state, say, versus tube. Now, in one of my very first videos that I put out, it was on this amp, and I'll link this into the description, to where somebody had commented why solid state amps tend not to cut through a mix. In other words, through the other guitar players, bass player, drummer, keyboardist, whatever you have in your band. Solid states can have a tough time cutting through that, where tube, look out, you're going to be the loudest guy in the room, depending on what kind of amp you have. This is 100 watt. I'd blow everybody away in that room with that, except for maybe another guitar player, if they have an equal amp. But nevertheless, will this cut through the mix? Not as well. No, it won't. So one of the things you'd have to do with this is to mic it, so everybody's going through the same kind of signal equally. So is that a big deal? Not necessarily. Most bars or places you gig, they're going to have a PA. And so you can mic it. That's generally not a problem. This is great for home personal use, or like, say, with a drummer, something like that. As far as a full band, unless it's mic'd, you're going to have a tough time cutting through. You are. But nevertheless, they're still awesome. That does not say they're not great amps, but that is the difference in cost. That does reflect the difference in cost. So again, this thing is as heavy as a tank. It's about 100 pounds in a 2.5 by 1 3/4 box. The thing is ridiculous to move. It's stupid heavy to move. I would prefer a head and like a 212 or a 412, to be honest, but I absolutely love this amp. This combo amp is killer. I also love this little orange. I wouldn't go without it. It backs up my Marshall. So let's say I was out gigging, just to hopefully make sure that there's a good PA, and I just mic it, right? And I'm going to do another video comparing the tones, the sounds, etc. of these two amps, so make sure you check those out. Those will be coming soon. And if you haven't subscribed, guys, please do. Really appreciate that. So again, in closing, what do I look for in amps? I like a nice, good clean, a really good clean, and a killer hard overdrive. Another thing I look for is a good reverb in an amp. I also look for ease of use, ease of care, that sort of thing. Also think about mobility, guys. This thing is very mobile. This is a little more difficult to move around. So, and power, think about the power that you'll need to cut through, depending on if you're playing with a band or not. If you're just home practicing, that's all you need. Okay, guys, we really appreciate you watching this video. Please, again, check out what I look for in a guitar video. And we really appreciate your view. Please subscribe, and we will see you next video.